ethical standards that need to be followed or or we can say by an organization or a publishing house. And most of these standards, as I told you in the last class, have to be followed greatly for an open access journal. Now, we had discussed about certain things like website. Website was one. And then we discussed about the name of the journal. We further discussed about the peer review process. We discussed about the ownership of the journal or the publication house. And we also talked about the governing body. Now, these are the requirements of any publication house or of the journal. These are the requirements of a publication house or of any journal: website, name of the journal, peer review process, ownership of the journal, and the governing body. We also talk about editorial team. Now, there are certain more things like next we might be we are discussing about the copyright and licensing. Now, this is a very important ethical standard at a journal. All the journals, and mostly the open access journal. Why the open access journal? Because in an open access journal, when you have free access, there might be issues with the copyright and with the licensing. So in what does the policy state of any journal? First of all, it should state that there is a definite copyright guideline should be provided by the journal or the publication house. These should be provided, and these must be published on the website of the journal. Next, licensing is very important because the licensing terms should be clear, and these must be illustrated by the publication house. Now, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I was talking about the copyright and the licensing. Now, the policy for copyright should be clear, and this should be published on the journal website. Next, I was talking about the licensing terms. Now, these should also be clear and should be published by the journal. Then comes the author fees. Now, because when you're talking about open access journal, in an open access journal, when you're talking about an open access journal, you will be charged with fees, and mostly you are charged with fees in an open access journal. Not all the open access journals charge you with fees, but most of them may charge you with fees. Now, these guidelines should be clear, and again, they should state on the website how much is the fees, what is the different nature of the fees. For example, different nature of the fees. For example, you have a fees for publishing is separate. जो जो आपका फीस होता है फॉर ऑथरशिप, reviewing, all these should be clear, and these guidelines should be provided by the journal itself. Then in publication ethics also comes uh, authorship and contribution. Now, most of the journals, they publish the authorship because they give good credit to the author, whoever is the author. उनका नाम देते हैं, their affiliation, वो कहाँ से affiliated है. This has to be mentioned by the journal. But contribution of certain other players, it's a good publication ethic कि अगर एक journal contribution भी दे. For example, you are getting funding from a particular organization for publishing, for your work and then for publishing. So the journal should give contribution acknowledgement. It should give contribution acknowledgement. Further, there is one more thing. What is the journal policy on data sharing? This should be clear. And the journal should not be, it should not be vague. It's not telling you whether it's sharing your data with somebody else or not. So these policies should be clearly mentioned on the journal website. Further, the journal should also have policy related to reproducing the manuscript. These policies should be again clear. There should be no vague guideline कि the journal is not offering and does not go for reproducing, ऐसे mention नहीं होना चाहिए. There should be a clear cut policy document जिसमें mention है कि हम किन किन के साथ reproduce कर सकते हैं, under which circumstances वो publication को reproduce कर सकते हैं. So the journal should also offer you, as an author, post publication discussion and corrections platform. Now these things should be clear. एक जर्नल आपको public
सर आपकी वॉइस नहीं आ रही है, ब्रेक हो रही है.
Even if there is certain issue with the voice, the audio recording will be available. The post publication discussion and the corrections, these should be allowed by the journal even after the publication has happened. Now there are certain journals who जो कि आपको allow करते हैं to go for many corrections. For example, you want to point out a correction from, say, some author. Now they will actually contact that author and tell him that this is the correction that somebody is mentioning regarding your publication, even after it has been published. So they will, उसके बाद वो नया वर्जन उस पब्लिकेशन का अपलोड कर लेंगे after the correction has been done. So the journal should allow this. Then comes the archiving. Now every journal should have backup and preservation of access to the journal content. So such that in future, after 40 years, 30 years, these journals are still available somewhere in the cloud repository, and you can access them. So the journal should also mention, if it's an open access journal, it should mention the revenue sources, which organizations are supporting it, which institutions are supporting it. These policies should be clearly, and this resource revenue information should be clearly be given in the journal's website. So apart from this, you might also have the issue with the access. And I have discussed this a bit before, that an individual articles, they may be accessed और कुछ articles access नहीं है. For example, you as an author are paying more, while publishing, even in a reputed journal, from Elsevier and जैसे स्प्रिंजर है, आप फिर भी pay, if you're paying, or not more, if you're paying, even in a good reputed journal, then the journal may offer it as open access. What is your motive? आपका motive क्या है? Why do you want to pay? Because more people will have access to your paper in a good journal. So what happens? You get more citations. That's your motivation. So for individual articles, the journal may offer paid so author manuscript submission, and it may offer you open access, which allows you to have paper in a good journal with more citations. So this was about the ethical standards that the journal has to maintain while publishing. Uh, Now I want to share with you, this is how do you, uh, uh, first of all, what are the analysis parameters while you are, let me write down somewhere. Yes. What are the analysis parameters? On which you analyze any journal? This is the first question that arises. The next question that arises is, which parameters are important in an open access journal? Which parameters are important in an open access journal? Just say from which you are actually analyzing a publisher and a publishing house. Now, this is given in your syllabus, that there is a Sherpa Romeo, this publication house, this Sherpa Romeo, is an sorry, this is an analysis house. What it does is that Sherpa Romeo is an online resource that aggregates and analyzes publisher open access policies from around the world and provides summaries of publisher copyright. Now, and open access archiving policies on a journal by journal basis. Let me take any good journal. What I will do is